What's up and welcome back to the Gridiron with Chance Aspen. Make sure you subscribe down below and give this video a big thumbs up. Now, enjoy this video. Alright, we're back for another division deep dive. This one is on the NFC West. If you don't know by now how my division deep dives work, I give you everything I like about each team, everything I don't like, and then I give my prediction on what I think their record is going to be this year. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. Let's start with everything I like about the team. The first thing I like is their overall offensive skill. If you look at the Arizona Cardinals and their offensive skill, it is really, really good. It's a solid core group of offensive skill guys. With Marvin Harrison Jr., who they drafted, who I think is going to play a big role in this offense. I would suspect that they build this whole offense kind of around Marvin Harrison Jr. and what he does well. They also have Michael Wilson, who's a good young receiver who can kind of play second fiddle to Marvin Harrison and help him out a little bit. They have Trey McBride at tight end, who's a really, really good young tight end. A little bit underrated, but very, very solid. James Conner in the backfield, who, in my opinion, is really underrated. He is a really, really good running back. All of this combined is a great offensive skill group. It's a really underrated offensive skill group. Now, the Arizona Cardinals aren't very good, so they don't get a lot of attention. But this offensive skill group is not terrible. There's a lot worse than this skill group in the NFL. This is probably middle of the pack, maybe upper echelon of the NFL for skill groups. Another thing, the quarterback Kyler Murray has become somewhat underrated. I really like Kyler Murray. Now, I know some don't. Some believe he's too small, right? Struggle to see over the O-line. Struggles as we get later into the season. Why does his production drop way down when the season gets longer and longer? Can he stay healthy? All this stuff. But I'm just saying right now, me personally, I love Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is a top 15 guy in the NFL. Like, I would take Kyler Murray over Dak Prescott. I know that might be crazy to some people, but I would take Kyler Murray over Dak Prescott. Kyler Murray, to me, is a better player than Dak Prescott. No doubt about it. The last thing that I like, Budda Baker. I still think Budda Baker is a difference maker at the safety position. They don't have a lot of difference makers, especially on defense. That's what they lack, is just elite difference makers, guys that can change the game on that side of the ball. But I still believe Budda Baker is one of those guys. He is still a difference maker for this Arizona Cardinals team. Let's move along to some of the things I don't like about this team. Questions with the interior of the O-line. Their interior of their offensive line is not very good. They're not very good. And that's terrible when you have a small quarterback. The D-line outside of Zaven Collins is not very good. Not very good. It's a pretty poor group. They don't have a lot of talent on the defensive line outside of Collins. And the last thing, just a lack of overall talent on the roster. They just lack a lot of talent at a lot of positions. Besides offensive skill, every other place on the offense, defense, special teams, they're not that talented. Other than offensive skill and quarterback. I do believe the Arizona Cardinals improve, and I have them at 8-9. Let's move along to the next team, the Los Angeles Rams. I really like this Rams team. I think they're going to be very, very good this year. Let's start with the things I like. Their two receivers, their top two receivers, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Both guys are elite. Both guys do different things. Cooper Kupp, his ability to get open over the middle of the field. Puka Nacua is one of the most complete receivers as far as blocking, can run, can carry the football, can block, can do this, can get open, physical, run after the catch. I would say Puka Nacua is probably a more complete receiver than Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's ability to get open is still elite, but I would say these two guys are both number one receivers, and both have proved it. You know, when Cooper Kupp spin out, Nacua had a monster year in his rookie year. A monster year. Another thing, I like Stafford. Stafford has become super underrated, and he's been battling injuries over these last couple of years. But to me, he is still, as far as arm talent, he's a top 3 guy in the NFL. I still believe that. Arm talent-wise, he is elite. The next thing, I love how they have filled the hole of Aaron Donald. Now, I will say this. You're never going to fill the hole completely of Aaron Donald. He's probably a top 5 player ever to play football. But with the additions of Verse, Fisk, Turner, Byron Young, like this defensive line is actually might be one of the better defensive lines in the NFL. It really is. And they lost Aaron Donald. Now, they're never going to replace Aaron Donald like he's a one of one, but adding 2 guys in the draft, having Turner and Young from last year, I suspect that this D-line is going to be one of the better units in the NFL. The next thing, I love their coaching staff. Specifically Sean McVay. Sean McVay, outside of Andy Reid, might be the best head coach in the NFL. As far as play calling, helping out his players, right? Relating to players, he's just a fantastic coach. And what I like is when the moments get big, he doesn't rely just on his play sheet. Like you saw this in the Super Bowl. He kind of just let his players go win the game. Instead of relying just on his play sheet and I got to call all these plays. He has all these cool concepts in his head, but in my opinion, what he does best is when the game gets tight and it's time to go win, he lets his players go win the games. And that's what he does so well. The last thing that I like the addition of Tre'Davious White. Now, he's battled a lot of injuries, and is he the same guy from 3 or 4 years ago? Probably not. Okay, he's probably not that guy anymore. We can all agree on that. But just having a guy like that at corner, especially if he can stay healthy, is so valuable for this defense. Because like I just talked about earlier, this defensive line is going to be really, really good. It's just a matter of this secondary can hold up. And the secondary has some weak points. But if it can hold up, and the addition of Tre'Davious White is going to help that, then they could have a sneaky good defense. Let's jump to some of the things I don't like. Matthew Stafford's health questions. Every year it feels like he's battling something. Every year he's getting banged up. Now he's one of the toughest players in the NFL. You can only have that toughness for so long until it catches up with you. So I do question his health. And the reason why I question his health is because I question this O-line. That's another thing. This O-line, I don't believe is that good. So a lot is going to be on Stafford. Can he stay healthy? Because this O-line is not great. The last thing that I don't like about this team, the safety position. I talked about the secondary with Tre'Davious White, but this safety position is not very good. They have John Johnson, but that's about it. They're not very good at the safety position. And that's a little scary. That's how you give up big plays. We've seen teams who have lost their safeties give up big explosive plays because they don't have that communication. The communication in the secondary starts with the safeties. So when you don't have good safeties who communicate well, you usually give up a lot of big plays. And that's probably the biggest thing that worries me about the Rams. Are they good enough at the safety position to not give up those big plays? We'll see. I have the Los Angeles Rams finishing at 11-6. Let's move along to the next team in the NFC West, the San Francisco 49ers. Let's start with what I like. The overall offensive talent. When you have Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, potentially Brandon Ayuk, we'll see, George Kittle, and obviously Brock Purdy being the gunslinger, that is one of the best offensive skill units in the NFL. It's probably top 3. It's elite. And when you have that offensive talent, the next thing is having offensive creativity, which they have. They're so creative how they get these guys the ball and how everyone gets to touch the ball and they're so unique with how they run these different plays and concepts with all the skill that it makes it such an elite offense. Because it's the great talent combined with the great creativity that makes this offense go at a high level. The next thing, this linebacker duo, Fred Warner and Greenlaw, is the best in the NFL. It is the best tandem in the NFL as far as linebackers. I love watching Fred Warner play football. Same with Greenlaw. They're both just flowing sideline to sideline, making tackle after tackle, making big play after big play. They're so fun to watch when they are both playing at a high level. The last thing, Nick Bosa is a game changer. I love talking about guys who are just game changers on teams. And he's the one guy on defense outside of Fred Warner and Greenlaw that is like legit a game changer, like difference maker, a guy that can destroy a game for the opponent. Like he is a legit difference maker for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's move on to the things I don't like. The D-line outside of Nick Bosa. You saw this last year when they went on that losing streak. Outside of Nick Bosa, they didn't have much. Now they went out and got Chase Young, so it got a lot better. But now they don't have Chase Young anymore. They have Leonard Floyd, but what is he? He's decent, but not great, right? I don't even believe he's Chase Young, if I'm being honest with you. So that worries me a little bit. This D-line and its ability to get to the quarterback outside of Nick Bosa worries me a little bit. Because if you don't have somebody else, now all the attention is going to go to Nick Bosa. And so now Nick Bosa isn't going to look as impactful as he would if he had help around him. The next thing I don't like is O-line. I don't believe they're very good on the O-line. They obviously have Trent Williams, but he's in a contract dispute right now, so we'll see what happens with him. But outside of that, what do they have, right? Not a very good O-line, in my opinion. It's not very good. Brock Purdy. Now, I don't dislike Brock Purdy, but what I don't like or I question is, can he elevate his game even more? Can he take his game to even another level that maybe we haven't seen yet from Brock Purdy? That's what I'm looking for. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about that I don't like about the 49ers is their coaching staff. Specifically, obviously, Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan is a great offensive mind. I think he's even a great head coach. But what I question about Kyle Shanahan is late in games, he's too in love with his play call sheet instead of letting the players go win the games. That, to me, what has prevented the 49ers from potentially winning a Super Bowl. It's just Kyle Shanahan falling too much in love with his play call sheet. He's got to sometimes let that go and let the players go win the games. That, to me, is his biggest flaw. He falls too in love with his playbook. And not enough with, let's just let these players, these great players, go win these games. I believe he wants all the attention when they win. That's what it appears. Because I watched Sean McVay in a Super Bowl give the keys to Matthew Stafford and just let him go win the game for them. And I don't see that same level of trust and here, go win it for us in Kyle Shanahan. Now, maybe because he doesn't have a Matthew Stafford. But I want to start seeing that from him. When games get close, do you put the ball in the hands of your players and let them go win the game instead of falling in love with your playbook? That's all I have on the San Francisco 49ers, and I have them at 10-7. The last team in the NFC West is the Seattle Seahawks. The first thing I like is their 3 wide receivers, Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. All 3 are very, very good football players. It's probably one of the best three-headed monsters of receivers in the NFL. They're all kind of young. They all kind of bring something different to the table, which I think is valuable. You don't want every one of your receivers all doing the same thing well. You kind of want guys who do different things well. That's what makes your receivers hard to stop, when different guys do different things at a high level. I also like Kenneth Walker. To me, he's one of the more underrated backs in the NFL. I love watching Kenneth Walker play. I've loved him since he was at Michigan State. He is a really good running back, a guy that you can give the ball to quite a bit, and he can kind of take over the game and grind out games. A guy who also has home run ability, and he can snap off big runs at any moment. And then I love this secondary. They have drafted so well in this secondary with Woolen, Witherspoon, all these guys in the secondary. It might be the best secondary in the NFL. And these guys are shutdown guys. That's what makes it even more elite, is that Woolen and Witherspoon are both like elite shutdown guys. You can put them on your best receiver and they can be elite shutdown guys. I love this secondary. And then I love their O-line. Looking at it, it's a solid offensive line. They've drafted really well at the O-line position. It's a solid group of O-linemen. A couple of things I don't like, though, about the Seahawks. Their D-line, they don't really have any game changers on the defensive line. That's probably the biggest thing they lack. No guy that you fear getting to the quarterback consistently. No, the guy that you're worried about, oh my God, if we don't block this guy's going to wreck the game. So that's a little bit worrisome. Next, Geno Smith. Geno Smith, I like him. I think he's a solid player. But is he really that guy that's going to take you over the hump to win a Super Bowl? That I question a little bit. And then just the new coach, Mike Macdonald. I've heard high things on Mike Macdonald. I like Mike Macdonald. I like what he did with the Ravens on defense. But I'm always a little worrisome. We just haven't seen him coach yet. So I'm going to always put I don't like it, because until I see it, then I can make an opinion on it. But that's all I got on the Seahawks, and I have them at 9-8. But hopefully you enjoyed this NFC West division deep dive. Make sure you subscribe down below and give this video a big thumbs up, and have an awesome day.